Hello, hello, hello. This is going to be a whispered and soft-spoken voiceover. I recorded this video last week and decided to do a voiceover version so that I could share the details of what I'm working on. So we have this giant box of popsicle sticks. Or another name for them is tongue depressor, but I prefer popsicle stick. So I wanted to make a small geometric shelf just for trinket type items. I plan to use one of the shelves for a succulent plant. The other I plan to use for a seashell, and I am in the process of making a third shelf for a small quote sign that I made. They are all going to be a different depth, but should fit nicely next to one another when they're hanging on the wall. So, although I won't be finishing them in this video, you can have a pretty clear idea of just how easy this project is. Honestly, the hardest part of this is being sure that the shape is correct. And other than that, it's just gluing the pieces in place. So as you can see, I'm stacking them in a pattern where every other one overlaps. looking at the screen, if we were to call the very top stick number 1, the one to the right number 2, the next 3, then 4, 5, and 6. You could say this goes in a pattern of 1, 3, and 5, and then the next layer would be 2, 4, and 6. Hopefully, how I've explained that makes sense. And it's pretty straightforward. If you did want to try this project, I would recommend something a little bit stronger than Elmer's glue. I'm using E6000 glue. Which is a pretty strong glue. I like the dispenser tip on this type of glue. It's got a very fine tip, so it's good for precision, and also it's good for if you're doing small repairs on something like ceramic. So, for these shelves, I think the best part is that you can decide the depth based on what you'll be using it for. And it's just a matter of adding as many layers of the popsicle sticks as you need to in order to achieve that. For my shelves, the deepest one that I'll need is going to be for the succulent plant. seashell doesn't need to be quite as deep. And when I hang them on the wall, I'm just going to hang each one on 2 nails that are horizontal, and by leaving enough of the nail out of the wall, it should settle in and keep it secure. A trick that I learned when I'm hanging a series of small items, pictures, shelves, whatever it may be, is to take a large piece of paper, such as parchment paper, and lay the items on top. Mark off where you want them to hang, and then mark off where you'll need to place whatever it is that you're hanging it with. You can then take that parchment paper and use something like painter's tape to hang it on the wall in the area where you want to hang your item, and that will serve as a guide as to where to put the nails or tacks or whatever it is you're using to hang them. You can just put the nail through the paper, and then when you're all done and they are all in place, you can just remove the paper, and it makes the process much easier than trying to guess where you may need to place your hangers. Because I didn't want this video to go on forever and ever, although I do hope you're enjoying the sounds, I did opt to only do part of the shelf. So, since recording it, I have added several layers to both of the shapes that I work on in this video. I really just wanted to show the basic idea of how I'm going about this project. And how simple it is. And once they're stained and hanging on the wall, you really cannot tell that it was made from just a simple popsicle stick. It's a very nice accent piece. Especially if you're just trying to add a little something to a smaller space, like an entryway or a hallway. So as I am going through, you can see how I kind of press on the sides after each one. That's me just trying to make sure that they all stay in line with one another and that they're even all the way around. Especially if you're going to be placing something on the shelf, you want to make sure that it's somewhat of a level surface. So I'm actually going to re-upload both the original and this version, I think, unless I can edit a video after it's posted when I'm recording and there's background noise or something goes wrong, I say aloud, edit that, or you can edit that, and I have mistakenly missed this during the editing process. Hopefully I'm able to just edit this video through YouTube rather than going through the re-uploading process. But I guess I will find that out today. So I am almost I need for the seashell shelf. It's a tongue twister. Seashell shelf. It reminds me of the poem She Sells Seashells Down by the Seashore. Or I've also heard Sally sells seashells down by the seashore. But this is my seashell shelf. Seashell shelf. So this shelf is the one that I did not add to after the fact. I was pretty happy with the depth of it. The shelf that the succulent is going on, however, I need it to be roughly 2 to 2.5 inches, probably closer to 2.5. Honestly, I didn't measure it to determine the depth, but I did have the planter next to me, so I just added the sticks until it seemed like a good fit. I do like that two of the shelves shelves are a different depth. And obviously, that's just a personal preference thing. If you were to make this, you could make them all the same depth. And what's nice about this project is that you can add as many of these as you wanted, and because of the geometric design, they all fit very nicely together. I'm going to leave about an inch in between each one. Just so that it doesn't look as though they're attached. I did, however, line them up like this while getting the second one started, just so that I could be sure that they fit well next to one another. This shelf that I'm working on right now is the shelf that I'm putting the plant on. It's a very small planter. But I didn't want it to hang over the edge, which is why I said that I the shelf that I'll be putting the sign on. I really didn't need that many layers at all. And that was just a miniature canvas that I did myself. These shelves would be really good for something like collectibles, or even small photo frames. The plant that I'm going to have on the shelf, I believe it's called a string of pearls. I think I could be wrong about that, but it's a plant that hangs down, and I think it will look really nice having something overlap one of the edges of these shelves. I think it's important when you have something with so much symmetry to have something like that, just to kind of break up the design a little bit. And doing so, sometimes that can draw your eye to whatever the item overlapping may be. Again, it's good to just press on the edges to make sure that everything is level. Otherwise, when you go to put something on it, there's a chance it may not stay. So I'm going to place these next to one another to give you an idea of how the finished product also think that this would be a neat idea for anyone into science, or more specifically, something like chemistry. And make shelves that way.